Hey, good afternoon. It's Ted Bogert with the Ted Show. I'm really excited. I know I say that because I do love my guests and I love the show and I love you guys, but I'm very excited to have Jaime Miller on. Jaime, welcome to the show. Jaime's going to tell us all about the art of conscious communication, and I've already learned a whole bunch from him already. My brain's going a mile a minute, which, as you guys know, that's about a mile more than it usually goes. He's going to give us pointers and tips, and we're going to talk about communication. We're going to talk about how you can be conscious about it and be more impactful in your relationships, business, and professional. So very happy to have you on the show, and shout out to Dallas, who introduced us.
Thank you.
Tell us about you, my friend. Love your accent. I know you're from Dubuque, Iowa. You are not, but tell us about you and give us a little of your origin story.
Okay. I usually joke with people that I'm from Texas as the first place.
We'll buy anything on the show. You're good.
Yeah, no. So, originally from London, England. I would say I've had a privilege. I'm now a proud American. I even drive a truck, so that makes me an American. And got my citizenship in 2013, so it was a big deal.
That's awesome. It's really a big deal.
It is. I noticed you had an immigration attorney on the other day, and I felt like I could definitely impart some thought processes around that.
Good. Oh, yes, you could come on the show because we're going to do a show about immigration, immigrants who are business owners.
Okay, so no, I took a lot away from that. I've been over here now for 24 years, and I went to Rollins College. Back in the day, I used to be able to kick a level ball around at an okay level.
Is that why you came here from England?
Yeah, I came here to play soccer at Rollins, and then I just never left. I got Floridaized. Like, so I couldn't handle we all live in a rat race of some nature. I like my rat race here rather than getting on the subway and feeling crammed like a sardine.
Well, lots of sunshine here too. I mean, I love London. I love England. It's beautiful. It's an
2 years of age, Ted, and I've only just now figured out what I want to be when I grow up. So, because I only started what I'm doing now and what's got me on the show with you last May. So I would say that I've always loved the idea. It's so generic, but from a genuine standpoint of trying to figure out where I can provide value for people. And literally, I had a Jerry Maguire moment.
Did you?
Yeah, like the sleepless night where I was like, where am I going to help people out? I always thought that, soccer and fitness has always been some part of my life, but I didn't feel like. I believe communication. I noticed, Ted, you've got a lot of entrepreneurs on the show, and I believe that any interaction you have, it doesn't have to be that you're getting dressed up, although you do dress fancy, and
I get a little fancy sometimes. You look good though. We kind of almost match.
Yeah, kind of. I put it on special occasion for today. And what I would say is I use every interaction as an ability to, I think true entrepreneurialism, it isn't having to, go just to a networking event. You could be in a 7-Eleven, you could be in a coffee shop, and you can extract business from people.
Absolutely.
So I ended up meeting a running coach, and I taught her a script, and from January to May of last year, she brought on 30 plus clients. I was like, and so a concept was born where proof of concept that were you ever raised with communication? It's it's either gift of the gab, you either have it or you don't. Was that ever
Yes,
a term?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, come 30 years of age, I learned that that's not true. All right, you can absolutely pick up communication skills, learn effective questions, and anyone can ask it no matter what your background is. And if you have a passion about what you're doing, it's even more elevated.
Let me ask you, because I've got 1,000 questions.
Go ahead.
Right? I don't even know if we can get them all done in this show. But communication, I think, is that's one of those foundational blocks of your life. You have to figure out your best ways to communicate, what that means, what that looks like, and how to do it. And you can always learn. I also agree with you that just because you think we're up here and we're talking on the show, somebody else, you could, believe it or not, the people that come on the show, they're nervous when they get here, a lot of them, and then the gab goes. It's about creating the environment and then making sure that you give them the tools, which is what you do. I think it's cool that you had that epiphany and decided that's how you wanted to use your gifts.
Other things, and hopefully if people are watching, the idea is if you were me on this show, you'd want to make an impact on people watching it. And I would have to say that nothing's perfect. So for instance, I noticed that before we even got on, I was like, Ted, I've not watched you as a consummate professional, that you always look straight, and I know I felt myself at times looking at you, or I'm looking down, or when you're talking, am I looking at the camera? Are they looking at me? It's so that's part of conscious communication.
Correct.
So just understand, nothing ever has to be perfect, all right? And when it comes to business, I think I've learned this. I'm 10 months into a business. If someone asks me, do you have a business card? I don't. If someone asks me, do you have a website? I don't. There's nothing up on the website. I don't know if you went to go and see it. And it hasn't stopped me bringing on one client. All right. And I think from a business standpoint, what I would teach people, you talk a lot about authenticity, and I know that you respect that, and I fully respect that. I believe in this notion that if you and I went for coffee with the owner of Blockbuster in the 80s, we would leave that being like, oh my God, we've met the most amazing individual. He knows everything about business. And then you look today, there's no Blockbuster. So
Correct.
I don't buy into this business coaching culture where it's like this systemized approach. I think you either have the ingredients, which key ones are belief in yourself and what you're going to bring to the table. And then the communication with somebody else is, can I get somebody else to believe that I can help them? And what kind of value do they place in it? If I believe in what I provide as a service, do I get someone else to believe I can help them? And if I get them to share with me, they place a high value on it. That way, I then bring on a client.
So yes, it makes sense. But I have a question for you on that, because I think a lot of people believe that they have, and I believe them, they have a passion for something. They have a passion. They believe in their business. Let's take real estate, for example.
Right.
They believe in what they're doing. They don't know how to translate that to effective, conscious, intentional, impactful communication. They don't, because there are people that just, we talk about gift of gab, that literally it's just all you do is blab. That also is not really impactful. That can be a negative and could be something that distances them from what they want to accomplish. But I think just because you have the passion doesn't mean you have the tools and the skills, which is where you come in.
That's very apt, and one of the things that I would share based on that is this. I don't share anything about myself. Like the idea is a realtor who goes up. If they make it about them, like I'm number one agent for all of this, that's throwing a statement out there that you're actually hoping the other person cares about.
Right.
It's like an egotistical guy approaching a woman in a bar saying, I'm an attorney, big shot attorney, and I've got a Ferrari out back, and you're just hoping that person that resonates for them. You don't, unless you make it truly about the other person and what they value, and then seeing if you can connect the dots for what they value.
Yes.
That's really what it comes down to. So the sophistication I find is lost is there's too much sharing. We're this brokerage, or we're this brokerage, and we've got these attributes, and then that's more hoping than finding out the human side of things. Do we build rapport? You know, can I get this person to feel like we are the same as each other? Is this person getting me?
Right.
Does that?
Yeah, I think that's so true. The worst meetings that I have are when somebody sits down and tells me all of the things about them that are amazing, and they haven't once asked me about me or what my needs are, or taken the time to give me any kind of, like, hey, this is why I wanted to meet you. I want to help you. When somebody sits down and it's just sell, 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 and they're not even interested in what I have to say or what I'm thinking, I shut down. That meeting is probably, those are the meetings where you see me start at 10 and it's over by 10:15, because I just don't have time in my life for that. And I think a lot of people, professional people, not just real estate people, do that same thing. They're so in it for the sale, and they're so anticipating what maybe the obstacles will be or the rebuttals would be, and they're not focused on the relationship.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's dangerous. Even my 11-year-old daughter knows the meaning of the word assume. All right,
I love it.
You guys can think about what assume stands for. But the danger is when you go to a meeting and they do that sharing of stuff without finding out what you value. You can literally, hopefully if this can be a takeaway for you guys, and if you do love it, I have a boom culture. So if someone learns something new, I have them say boom, okay? So if your audience ever says boom, you know that this had hit home for them. Before I even share anything about myself, I want to ask a question. Sales is not an evil commodity, all right? We're all selling. Getting my daughter to eat vegetables or get off a device is a sale. But you make it about the other person, and I asked you this question beforehand, Ted, and for you guys out there, when you go and sit down with someone's arranged a meeting with you, one of the first things I do is, look, you got up this morning, you got dressed, you knew you saw on your calendar you're going to be meeting with me. Before I share anything about communication and what I think I might be able to do for you, what benefits would you even come up with for having this meeting? And then that's a question. And what happens is that person just starts sharing with you everything they value about that meeting. It's organic. They don't know why you're asking the question. And then they'll start sharing the things that they actually care about the most.
Correct. Which is exactly what I did, for the record. And then when Jamie said, and you probably don't even remember the question, he's 100% right. I did not remember the question. But I loved that because it put me at ease, because there I am, the host, and yet he's concerned about me. He's interested in me up front. I think we have to figure out how to do that. I want to ask you about listening.
Right.
Listening is, to me, a lost art, and I think a lot of people misdefine, or they don't define listening properly. For them, listening is waiting so they can give their next point, and it's not listening. So do you talk about listening, and what do you think about how people can be better at listening?
Listening is the most important skill set on the planet in a sale, and if you understand sales, you understand the other person should be the one doing all the talking. All right, that's what it comes down to. My whole thing to elevate is, what are you listening to? All right, if you're asking questions that turn people off, all right, it's a terrible question to be asking, because what are you listening to? So there are people out there where they believe so much in their business and they think that they're a big shot and they think they've got everything, that they will ask the worst question. They might ask someone, hey, look, I'm this, like, I'm the hottest attorney in town. Why wouldn't you go with my services? And that's a question, and what they don't realize is they've asked a question, so they're controlling the conversation, but the question was, why wouldn't you go with my services? Well, since you asked me to share all the reasons why I won't go with your services, let me just share them all with you, because
Right.
you planted the seed.
Correct.
So the idea is there's questions that you can turn someone on, and then the idea is to listen. In fact, you want them to talk so much that there's a technique that, if you're not familiar with, where you can actually repeat the last word of the sentence that they say with a questionable look on their face, and then that person will continue dialogue. If they don't, just say, hey, can you elaborate on that for me? And the idea being, Ted, is we want to listen more than we talk.
What is so conscious communication?
Mm-hmm.
What is your definition of that? What is that when you put it out there? And I love when the guest picks the title,
Right.
and this one is so good. But I think a lot of people will go, well, okay, what does conscious mean? And so, what does it mean to you when you're putting that out there, when you're talking about it?
Conscious means an elevation. Conscious means going. My son and I love anything Marvel and DC, so I use a lot of acronyms like spider senses. Okay, being conscious is me being aware of, I'm not always looking at the camera, and I know that when people watch this back, they might notice that. And I shared that nothing's perfect. Being conscious is, if I'm having dialogue with someone, I watch them do like a cross arms, I actually call it out. All right, or
Do you really?
100,000,000%.
Very good.
And here's the reason. Have you ever seen those? I've got a slide in my curriculum where it's got an iceberg, and when you see success, it's what people see and what actually goes into it.
Yes.
The same is with communication. So the consciousness, the real meat of the success of communication is, it's all underneath the surface. If you have someone, they cross their arms in front of you and you don't call it out, you're having surface level communication. You leave that meeting, you didn't get the sale, and you're like, I know exactly when it happened, and you didn't address it, because an amateur salesperson is just thinking about, how do I put money in my pocket? They're not actually caring about what the other person is saying, and am I listening to that person? Conscious communication is higher consciousness. If you're selling an emotion, people do things on emotion, they justify it with logic. Well, if I know people do things on emotion, I share a story, and then I see their eyes. I'm not looking at you. I'm trying not to look at you, to be consummate professional, to look forward. But if I'm having a conversation with you and I see your eyes start off as I share a story or something, I'm going to ask you, I'm like, Ted, I couldn't help but notice. I saw your eyes dart off. What was going through your mind at that point? And that, I promise you guys, viewers, that's where the most golden information gets shared. They're like, oh, when you were sharing that story about your daughter, it just got me thinking about this. I'm like, tell me more. All right, and you're
That's
showing
good.
a genuine care for the person.
That's so good, because I think people, you can tell when somebody's looking off, and instead of assuming that it's because you're boring or you're not doing a good job, it could be that you've actually impacted them and made them think. So by asking it, it continues the conversation. It also shows that you're paying attention to them. Instead of being so caught up in you, you're actually paying attention to them, which I love. Also, conscious to me can also mean being woke, being awake, being present while somebody is having a conversation with you, instead of drifting off to 1,000 other things that we all have on our plate. People can sense that. I can feel it when somebody is not with me. And I've never called anybody out on it, so maybe that's the one nugget I'm going to take away among the many, but that's certainly a nugget. Because I think calling people out, that also doesn't have to be negative. Maybe there's a better way to frame that.
I hope that would come across. I'm not saying like call it out. It's done in a soft way. Look, I couldn't help but notice like your arms got across. Does that mean that? Because sometimes it could be you're cold, or is it mean are you still with me on stuff? Like you're reading their body language. If I'm having a conversation with people and I'm watching their head nod as I'm talking, I'm like they're with me.
Right.
All right. I think consciousness is also, if you're going to a networking event and someone turns around and says, what do you do for a living? Which is the common standard. Everyone, if you're watching this and you've got networking, someone said, what do you do? If you're an accountant, if you're a realtor, or most professions where there isn't just one of you, and your response is just go ahead and tell them, I'm a this. The realization is consciously is you haven't elevated any emotion in that person why they would want to work with you.
Correct.
You know, you haven't made it conversational, and so it's being awake, and it's being aware that I have to listen to someone, I have to evoke emotion in this person. I understand that I can build rapport, I can evoke emotion, I can get a call to action and have a meeting, and it all happened in the space of 2 minutes with someone without having to tell them, you know, I'm in insurance and I've got 401ks, annuities, and I do all this stuff. It's understanding edification. If you tell someone you absolutely should use Jaime's services, or I say if you're thinking of getting a mortgage, you have to go to this guy, that's the best edification in the world. You can't buy that. It's amazing, right? If you're going out there and someone says, what do you do? And you say, I'm this, all right? You're self-edifying yourself, and there's low effect on that. So even just starting dialogue, you know, what do you do? You know, if I'm an accountant, you know, it's interesting you asked me that. My clients have shared with me that although a lot of people think it's very boring, my clients have assured me that I've turned it into the most sexiest, exciting, lucrative thing on the planet.
Good. That's
all right,
good.
And what you've done there is you've not got your client next to you, but you've brought your clients to light, meaning they're now subliminally thinking, oh, this guy has clients. Like, can I extract a meeting as to why you're going to meet with me without saying, I'm an accountant, I do taxes, and making it boring.
Well, and you use these good, in that particular case, or that example, you use this word. Immediately when we say something sexy, people are like, I want to be part of sexy. I want to be part of that. I want my accountant to be sexy. I want my accountant to think that way too, because you're putting it out there that you look at things differently. Again, it's about that, it's just a couple of words sometimes. I want to talk about networking because so many people go to networking events, and you brought it up. And one of the things that, I'm not a business card person at all. I'm also not, I don't ask those questions. Normally what I've learned, but remember I'm 35, 40 years into this, I sit and I attract, and I feel like a lot of people do this, tap you, hey, I'm so-and-so, I've got to at least talk to one person, this is what's going on in their mind, and I have to figure out one person I can talk to so I can at least justify being here. They come at networking in such a negative way that they get back what they're putting into it. So can you give them some tips about maybe some better ways to introduce themselves? You know, people talk about their 30-second elevator speech. I hate elevator speeches, my personal opinion. I don't even like to use that word, because then all you're doing is telling me about you again, and I really just want to get to know you.
Perfect. So, you know, I pride myself on being very transparent. All right, and most people respect that. And if I talk about building rapport. Building rapport to me is just making someone else the same as you. All right, it could be a woman, it could be a young guy like Darius, it could be, you know, it could be anyone. But if you go rapport building, making someone the same, it's 3 words I use. You like me. All right. So if I say, Ted, you like me, you value your time, you're going to say what? Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, that's good. So you're like me. That's good. It's really good.
Now, if we want to go specific, you want to elevate rapport as quickly as possible. So with you here, like, hey Ted, you like me, we're doing this show in the Citrus Club on the 18th floor, downtown Orlando, looking to make an impact on people. We could agree, right? We're way different thinkers than a lot of people out there, you know, who are sleeping on a couch right now. You know, we think differently. And what's happening in your mind is you're thinking, this person gets me. We are the same. So that's a first start for a networking.
That's good.
If someone comes up to me and says, what do you do, Jamie? Which happens, I'm always very like, you know, that's the most, it's always interesting when people ask me that, because I want to build some intrigue, like, oh wow, like what's about to come out of this guy's mouth? And I'm like, you know, if you're anything like my clients and like me when it comes to this, would you say communication is important? And they always say, yes. And I'm like, well, why do you think it's important? And then they're talking and they're like going off on this tangent. I'm like, well, it seems to me like you really value communication. It just so happens I'm a communication coach. You know, just out of curiosity, with your schedule coming up, if I could share, I don't know, a few things that you're not doing around communication for your business, would you see any value in that kind of meeting? Yes, great. And then what I do is I grab my phone, I'm like, technology is amazing these days.
It really is.
All right, I'm like, you can literally operate, I'm like, I operate my calendar. If we were just to take a look now at your calendar and sync it up and see when we can meet next week, that's cool, right? Yes. And then I'm arranging a meeting, and I'm not, and then if I don't want someone talking a lot, or I want to set something up for success, I'm like, if you're like me, when you come to these networking events and someone asks you what you do, it's never the one, you never want it where it's this whole telling and draining of time and telling a whole load of things, right? And you're seeding what you don't want to take place, and people are understanding of that. Yes. And so it's understanding you can build rapport, like I said, evoke an emotion and a call to action, all within the space of 60 seconds, because at a networking event, I believe in farming, I believe in visibility, I believe that you get a following, the more you do this, you learn lessons, you get better at this, the more you do it. This is episode 500 and something.
Correct.
Well, the more visibility you have, the more likely you're going to get more business. If people are going to networking, sometimes I find I can be a hunter just like the best of them, but I think if you have this kind of like farming mentality and big picture mentality, and they get to see you a lot more often, people would have success there too. But again, having consciousness not to talk someone's ear off, and to get them to share what they love about what it is that you do. If I'm a realtor, knowing I'm a realtor, or even if I may share this diplomatically, because I don't know how it comes off to people, it's just my thought process, and go with me on this.
Share.
Realtors, when they're wearing a name badge in their brokerage, all right, I think you're telling people what you do before they even come up to you, so they can avoid you.
I was just going to ask
there's
you
no
about name
There's
tags.
no intrigue. And when you talk about business cards, it's fine to. I'm not saying I'll never have a card. I'll say I'll avoid handing them out like candy. I've gone to Mathers downtown and had a guy hand me a card where I didn't even know his name. He didn't even know my name. Yet he's handing me a business card, and I'm like, there's no rapport build there. Like,
he could be the best at what he does, and I have already said no. And I think people don't get that. I love that you brought up name tags. Pet peeve, don't like it, don't even fill it out. If you make me fill it out, I'm going to put Superman or something on the name tag.
Build some intrigue, right?
Just anything but them, because I just feel like they're so superficial, and it is a crutch. That's my opinion. That's what I've learned. But I also don't like the guy. We call him the guy that's he's making it rain with his business cards or her business cards, because that just shows me you're just trying to throw it against the wall and hoping something sticks. You have no desire to build a relationship with me. The only thing you know how to do is throw your card at me, and that means to me you're not really good at what you do. That may not be the case, but that's the impression you're making on me as a person. And we literally want, most of the people that have done networking for a long time, business development, we don't want to deal with that kind of person. All right, so Darius has given us the signal. We have begun to run out of time. Who doesn't love Jaime? See, I have so many takeaways from today. I love this. I definitely want to have you back on. Dallas, big shout out to you again for the intro.
Thank you, Dallas.
I think it's so amazing what you do, and we all need it. Even me on a camera, I need nuggets, and I can always improve. We're not perfect, which is what you said earlier. I didn't tell you this question because I forgot. There's authenticity and vulnerability right there. But foundation is the theme for the week. So can you give them an idea of what foundationally is important to you in a relationship? what is a non-negotiable when you are either working with somebody professionally or you're in some sort of personal relationship with someone? What are the tenets that really build your foundation?
Build my foundation. I believe people, this word gets thrown a lot out by you, and and it's a shame that it's not commonplace, but authenticity, being able to actually be your true self, not play pretend, being able to have a first date. And some of my friends like, Jamie, you overshare too much on a first date, but I'm like, let them know my flaws and everything, because time is one. I didn't know I was going to share this on air, but when I lost my biggest supporting staff is my mum and was my dad. And I would say that my dad, you know, when I lost him, I would say that it made me appreciate time more than anything in the world. So I don't like wasting people's time or my own. So I think being authentic in a relationship, being upfront, being able to be your true self and have someone accept you. And we all have these puzzles in our lives, and you want someone to place it in it and be able to be yourself and not play pretend. And I think that that's the biggest success I'm going to look from a foundation standpoint with somebody.
Amen, my friend. You're a joy. So, The Art of Conscious Communication, Jaime Miller, you've got to look him up. Get in touch with him. Doesn't have to be real estate. It can be any business, obviously. We all need help with communication. I know I certainly do. And I think it's really important to have somebody who can teach you these things, because the better we are at it, I feel like that's one of the things